Hello there, everybody out there in internet land. I am doing this as if it were live, but no tomfoolery or fluffery or editing or any of that stuff like that involves compressed together syllables that are completely ununderstandable. But today I want to talk about grants and grant proposals, and specifically something that I've seen with a lot of the clients that I've worked with recently, and I think it's a big misunderstanding people have about how to start your grant proposal powerfully. And so we're going to talk about that today, how to really get more in persuasive mode and less in raising defenses mode of your reviewer. And I was here working on a battery project and came to a stopping point because my little soldering pencil really, is not powerful enough for this project. So you might wonder, what am I doing in this project? So I'll tell you about that, and then we'll dive into the grants. So this is a piece of a lithium-ion, lithium manganese, and lithium nickel something battery from a Chevrolet Volt. I actually have a Chevrolet Volt parked in the garage. This is not from my Chevrolet Volt. This is from a crashed Chevrolet Volt. And what I'm doing with this piece of battery, it's about 48 volts worth, is setting up a solar charging system for my RV camper. And it's pretty awesome. I used to have some lead acid batteries. They're actually sitting on the floor right here next to me. And they were okay, but they're heavy, they're big, and I also managed to accidentally discharge them to like 0 volts. Which is not a good thing for them. So that was an opportunity for me to rethink my approach and decide, hey, what better way than keep some old electric vehicle batteries out of the landfill and in the process, use this for something awesome. This is going to be, it's still not lightweight, but it's a lot lighter weight than the lead acid and carries more energy. And by running it at 48 volts, I can have it be more compatible with inverters without having to have big ass cables connecting everything together, because at the higher voltage you carry more power with less current. And so what I'm doing today is installing what's called a battery management system. And battery management systems are required for these batteries, for these lithium batteries, because on lithiums the cells themselves have certain parameters they have to stay within, certain maximum voltage you can't go above and certain minimum voltage you can't go below. And also when you're charging the pack with a charger, the different cells can get out of alignment, out of voltage alignment with one another. So there are 12 different cell packs in series here, and if one gets to be a higher voltage than another, that's not so good. So this battery management system actually balances it all out. And so I need to solder on this set of wires here to each of the different cells and plug it into this. So this can monitor the voltage of the individual cells and keep everything happy and awesome. And then this has a Bluetooth connection that goes to an app on the phone. So it's all pretty cool, but like I said, my little soldering pencil is not enough to heat up these contacts here so I can actually solder to them. So I've got to run to the store and fix that issue. So let's talk about your grant proposals. In your grant proposals, one of the key things that has to happen early on, like in the specific aims page, or if it's NIH, if it's NSF, your project summary page, whatever introductory materials you have that your reviewer first interacts with, you really have to get them to come on board with the paradigm that you are espousing. And what do I mean by that? That sounds like fancy words. Well, in order to do your aims, whatever aims you are proposing to do, whatever project you are proposing, there needs to be a reason why this hasn't been done before and why this is new and different. And so it's important that it's new and different, but at the same time, a lot of people, a lot of humans, we humans, are skeptical about new and different, and whether new and different is right, and whether it will work or not. So you've got this sort of conflicting thing you've got to accomplish of both new and different, but not too new and different. And so one of the things that we have to do, the heavy lifting and the hard work, is to really move the reader from where they're at and what they think will or won't work and why, over to the point that they actually think, hey, this is going to be feasible. This is going to be an interesting approach. This is a necessary approach to solve whatever problem. So in that first paragraph, a lot of times what I see people doing is really writing it as sort of just a general background. You know, this is a big problem with 5,000 million people who die from this every year, and so the population of the earth is wiped out by tomorrow, right? So they do that kind of stuff, and then they maybe move into, pretty quickly, some scientific technicalities. Now, neither one of those things, neither that big picture, a zillion people are going to die, or the technicalities, is what's really important. I mean, yes, those are kind of important, but they're not as important. They're not as important as really showing your reviewer the paradigm. What is it that they have to accept? What shift in their minds do they have to believe in order to believe that your work, your specific aims are necessary? And there's almost always some kind of shift they have to make, because they may be trying to research one particular avenue or area, or they know colleagues who are researching one particular avenue or area, and usually that's a popular area. And then you're coming along and saying, well, I want to do something different than what everybody else is doing. And if you're doing the same thing as everybody else is doing, well, then what's the point of the research, right? So it needs to be a little bit different. But then the question is, well, why does it need to be different? And if that why it needs to be different is not compelling enough, then often you'll get defenses raised. You will get people saying, well, it's not worth the risk. Internally, they say this in their mind. They won't necessarily say it obviously in the reviews, but this is what their mind does. They look at it and say, oh, you're proposing to go over here and do this other thing that's different than what I'm doing or my colleagues are doing. And that's risky, and it's not worth the risk because there's no compelling reason to actually do that. So what we have to start doing in that first paragraph is shift their thinking to the idea that there is a compelling reason to look in a different place or look in a somewhat different direction. And so this is what I call frame meshing and some of the lessons for my advanced Grant Foundry clients. So in frame meshing, the idea is that your reviewer has a frame about what are acceptable and realistic approaches. And that's what they start, that's just in their brain, that's what they start out with when they start reading your proposal. And then you have a frame that says, no, actually, let's look over in this different place at this different kind of approach that I think is better. I think it's going to solve the problem in a better way. Hopefully you think that, right? Otherwise, why are you writing a proposal? So we have to get them from here, where they are, over to here, where you are. Now, most applicants just hit them over the head with it. Most people just say, look, I've got this great idea. Here are all the reasons, the 10 reasons that it's great. But if your reviewer is already over here thinking, this is the acceptable way to do things, and this is the popular way, and so on and so forth, and you start hitting them over the head with, no, come over here and join me, because this is awesome, they will immediately, the natural thing to do in the head is to get defenses raised. And as soon as the defenses are raised, as soon as they're saying, no, I'm skeptical, no, I don't believe you, no, this isn't the best way, they start looking for reasons, more reasons to reject you. And usually they will find those reasons to reject you in the approach section. So when you get your summary statement back, you will see a lot of critiques of your approach, because it's easy to critique approaches. We're talking about the future. We're talking about science fiction. So it's always easy to critique science fiction because things can always go wrong. They probably will. Everybody knows this. Super easy to critique that, much more than to critique significance or whatnot. So you hit the frame clash because you haven't done the heavy lifting to get them over on board with you. You have the defenses, you have them looking for reasons to reject. They give you all of this feedback that's about your approach section. You go, you try to fix your approach section, you resubmit your proposal, and then you get a score back that's similar, and you're like, why did that happen? Why, I fixed all this stuff, why do they still not like it as much as I hope they do? I mean, yeah, occasionally the scores get better, but unless you're pretty close, it's somewhat rare that you can just fix all the stuff in the approach section they didn't like, and they will suddenly like it better. And this has mystified so many clients of mine. Well, it's because of this same thing, because you ran into the defenses in that first paragraph or in the opening stuff of your aims, and you never fixed that problem. You never calmed those defenses back down and got the reviewer on your side, got the reviewer excited about what it is that you're proposing to do. So our heavy lifting in that first paragraph is really to start with where they are at, where they're thinking about this particular problem that you're wanting to solve is at. And what we've got to do is lead them 1 or 2 steps down the path to accept, to really see that this paradigm, this shift that you're proposing is a worthwhile shift, that the things that they're thinking of as solutions really aren't necessarily leading to solutions, but we have to do that without being insulting. Like if we insult them and say, hey, you guys all suck, you don't know what you're doing, then that's also going to raise defenses and not go in our favor. So that first paragraph is super critical, and most people don't do a very good job of this. They either go too broad or too narrow and specific, and they don't really frame the gap or gaps correctly. So in a future video, I will talk about this. By the way, I was supposed to mention, supposed to, as if like there's some person controlling me like a puppet, but I wanted to mention that if you want more in-depth grant training that has 3 grant writing myths that I tear down and destroy, and also a case study of a perfect scoring R01, head over to grantwebinar.com and sign up there, and you can get instant access to that more in-depth training. So anyway, to wrap this one up, really work hard on that first paragraph and really work to resolve that inherent frame clash that's going to happen between what it is that you're going to propose to do and what the community, what your reviewer is thinking is the right thing and the not so right thing to be doing. You've got to close that gap between those two. And that's what I call frame meshing. That's just a fancy name for it, is bringing those frames together, meshing them together. And you have to do that step by step, very precisely and very carefully. And it's not just like writing the background section of a paper or manuscript. So that's the tidbit, the nugget of grant writing awesomeness today, that if you apply it, it should help you out a lot. If you want more nuggets, go to grantwebinar.com and register there for the training that I have created for you. That's awesome. And meanwhile, I'm going to get back to my battery project. I'm going to run over to the store and get a big ass soldering iron and have some fun melting some tin and lead and whatever's in that solder stuff. So until next time, this is Morgan, and good luck with your grants. I know it's grant writing season as I'm recording this, so I hope it really goes well. Stay calm, stay confident. That stuff is really important too. Like if the reviewers smell desperation, you can kiss your grant proposal goodbye. All right, I'll see you later. I'll hopefully see you at grantwebinar.com or somewhere here on the interwebs. All right, bye.